Mhm.
In 2013 and 2012, no one knew what this new broadcast was going to look like, where surfing was going to go.
If it wasn't surfing, what would you be doing?
Yeah, I think I love that event so much.
Yeah,
and
me too.
all of a sudden, I can't sleep. Like,
Can't believe it.
hey, thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. Nice one, mate. How are you?
Doing great, man. I'm down in San Diego, California right now. We've got some family down here, and we went to a concert last night, a band called Stick Figure, kind of
Nice.
like reggae dub type music. And yeah, the venue is a place called the Shell. It's maybe like a small version of like the Sydney Opera House. But it looks cool because it's on a harbor. Not
Yeah.
as big or as grand architecturally, but it's a really cool concert site because the sunset goes down right next to the stage.
Uh-huh. Lovely.
And the show ends pretty early, so yeah, it was perfect. It was a fun night.
That's really good. I'm really glad for you. Reggae and dub is very big here as well, actually.
Oh, I
So
bet. Yeah.
yeah, it's big here. So it's always fun, you know.
On
It's
the
very, very
island.
yeah. Well, it kind of fits, right? Sunshine, reggae, dub. It all
That
works.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Throw in some surf, and we're all really happy, you know.
No, that's great. You're from the island, huh?
Yes, yes. I'm from Malta. We're a tiny island, middle of the sea, Mediterranean. 500,
Beautiful.
I think, 1,000 people. And yeah, Have you ever been here?
I never have, man. I really want to check it out one day.
Man, you've got a second home here whenever you need.
I appreciate that, Mark.
Very, very simple. You grew up in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, so I moved around a lot. I was born in California, moved to Hawaii when I was 6, and then moved back to California when I was 13, and then stayed for a while, moved up and down the coast from Santa Barbara to San Clemente. And then now I've been back in Hawaii for about 8 years on the North Shore.
Nice.
So yeah, a little bit of back and forth, kind of a hybrid between the two places, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm fascinated by Hawaii, absolutely fascinated, because obviously it's an island just like us. So it's like I'm really curious
Yeah.
to see what we can learn as a surf community, as a surf family from Hawaii. Is there any insights you want to share?
Definitely. I think the best thing you see is in lineups is the respect for the elders, you know, and as you get older, the amount of respect that you have when you start paddling slower, you're not catching as many waves. But there's, for example, at Rocky Point, there's a guy named Uncle Butch. Everybody knows him. He's got white hair. He's been surfing his whole life, and he'll paddle out on a big longboard these days. He always picks the best waves, but as soon as he turns around, nobody's going.
I mean,
You know, it's like the coolest thing that every time Uncle Butch turns, he's going to get the wave. And traveling around the world a lot, that doesn't always happen. You know, it's sometimes it's a total dogfight just to get anything, no matter how old you are. I really love that respect on land and on water for the elders, and taking time to listen to them pass on wisdom is really beautiful. So I think that's the best thing. If you could integrate that on the island, I think that would be pretty magic.
that's going to be rule number. I'm one of the oldest, so that's going to be rule number 1.
So this is great. This is perfect.
We've got a really young community here. It's kind of being built up for, I would say, the last 10 years. There have been surfers before, which I've interviewed, the OGs as well. But
Yeah.
we're a really young community here. So I say I'm one of the oldest at 36. We've got a 43-year-old and we've got a 39-year-old. The rest are really young and really good shredders. The standard keeps on improving every year because we have
Cool.
a phenomenal coach on the island too, Valerio, and he's teaching everyone, which is really, really cool.
That is awesome.
That's really good. I'm gonna definitely share that one, mate. Nice one. That's
Do
really.
you guys have a lot of waves? Like a lot of different types of waves, from beach breaks, point breaks, and everything? Or
Yeah, we have a couple of point breaks. We have mainly beach breaks, I would say. It's wind driven though, so it's kind of hard to predict. And we get like flat. Right now, we're in a bit of a flat period. We had a good session 2 weeks ago with the biggest waves I've caught personally, and then we're looking forward to 2 weeks time, probably another break, I would say. Hopefully, but we never know really on the Mediterranean. So
right.
it's like whenever we're trying to predict and see what we can do, especially when you're trying to host a comp, right? Because
Yeah.
really have to plan a whole window and get the sponsors involved now, and so it's quite tricky. But we have what we have, and we make it work.
I love it. That's great. I
That's
hope it
how.
all works out on this next swell.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, man. That's really, really cool. So yeah, if you're ever coming here, it's kind of it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to come here because I know there's waves on the spirit. But recently we've been spotting a trend in a couple of months. So you never know. Maybe this trend keeps alive, which is really good.
Oh, there we go.
Joe, do you have the best job in the world?
I do.
You do, anyway.
It is. It's crazy how I think I made it up in my head when I was a kid, and then it just happened. Maybe there is something about putting it out there, when people say that, put it out in the universe or something, because I do feel like that kind of happened. And I also think timing. It was just really, really being curious about a live broadcast, and then at the same time being in love with surfing. And the early 2000s, the webcasts were up, and some of them were a little clunky, and just figuring it out and covering surfing in remote locations and trying to bring it to everybody's homes. And then to see where it is today, it's like been this fast growth to like a really top quality, product, which is really, really fun to be a part of. The travel, the cultures you get to mingle with, and the waves, obviously, that you always dreamed of surfing. It's crazy to be able to go to those places over and over again for all these years. It's definitely a dream come true.
That's amazing. And yes, you're right. It's come a long way as well, which is really, really good to see. I think the WSL has put in so much time and energy into making the sport come across as so beautiful. The people involved are just amazing. From the outside looking in, it looks incredible. It's a full credit to you and the WSL. But would you say you've also changed the culture of the WSL or helped it in some way?
Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's always hard talking about yourself, I guess, but it's I think I just always had a vision of who I wanted to be when I did this. Like I had a frame of reference of being a professional broadcaster, and I think at the time I saw an opening there of I could maybe be the professional broadcaster first and the core surfer second. It was sort of like my frame of reference was that I want to do a top quality TV show and a TV production, and then use all my surf knowledge from there instead of the opposite. I didn't want to go on and be too cool or leave people out. I wanted to be inclusive, and I also wanted to make whoever I was next to in the booth, a color commentator or a guest, I wanted to bring the best out of them. That was my frame of reference going into every heat, over the years. And I still feel that way today after all these years. I just want to, whoever I'm sitting next to, I think my main goal is just to bring the best out of them and connect and share surfing in the best way possible. So it's been a fun ride, and it's cool to have worked with so many different people over all these years, and to have now the resources at WSL. We have a guy named Jed Pearson, who's the head of, I think his official title is the chief content officer. His title's changed a few times because he's in charge of a lot of things, but he was the guy that put the original team together in 2014 with like myself and Potts and Ross Williams, Rosie Hodge, Ronnie Blakey, and he really has a lot of great instincts when it comes to bringing the right people together, not just from talent on camera, but from our live producers, our directors. You become a family on the road, and you really do have to look out for each other, even outside of the job, because you're traveling together, you're sharing cars, you're on plane flights, you're away from family, you go through ups and downs together on the road. And I think when when you feel like a family on the road, then you do this live product of surfing, of something we all are passionate about. And in the live arena, when the waves are good, there's some real magic that comes out of that. You're really connected together. And I think that shows in the product,
Yeah, it does, for sure. It's so smooth, and the chemistry just looks amazing. whoever you've got in the booth with you, even the sort of the post-surf interviews are really, really incredible to watch. Like they're so cool. And it's bringing it to our living room, which is just far out for us. Like, you know, I've never been to these fantastic locations, like, you know, Tahiti, for example, and we're watching this live. It's incredible. So thank you so much for all the effort.
Of course.
So let's talk about the day when you're live. The call is on, and I don't know. How do you decide who's doing which heat?
Oh yeah, so that's up to whoever the live producer or the showrunner might be. So that's either a guy named Milby Shannon, who's now a director as well, and a director of broadcast, and then there's another guy named Ted Chavanis, and they kind of rotate on who's, you know, creating those rosters for the day, and they'll have a vision of, you know, where the day might go, if there are guests coming in, who they want to, you know, set those guests up with.
Yeah.
And then they go from there. So sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and there's an email. It's like 6 a.m. and they're like, all right, schedule change. You know, so-and-so just confirmed that they can come in for heat 5, and you kind of will see your rotation. Typically it's 2 heats on, 2 heats off.
Yeah.
When we're not doing the overlapping format. And you know how to plan your day, you know, because there are long days. You're sometimes starting at like 6:30 and ending on dark. So
yeah,
you really have to use your break time well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you do when Kaipo's on? What are you doing?
When Pipe's on?
When Kaipo's on comms.
Oh, when Kaipo's on. Yeah, no, totally. So when I rotate with him,
yeah,
I will take my first heat off because I have 2. So they're around 35 minutes, 30 minutes. My first heat is just to relax for a second. I just get some water, relax, don't talk that much. You know, I just kind of cruise, have some downtime, quiet time.
Yeah.
And then that next heat, I will kind of sit down with some notes of whatever heat I'm calling. If it's like Griffin Colapinto versus Gabe Medina, I'll start scratching little ideas down on my paper of, you know, what's on the line for this heat, what's their history, have they had a heat out here together in the past, and kind of those like sports centric questions, and then kind of individualize it too. Like if I ran into Griffin that morning in the water, were his board's feeling good, and I just kind of try to like get that flowing through my head before the heat starts. And sometimes you don't go to it in the live call because the waves are really good, and I actually don't mind that. If I have like 20 things written down and I don't use them because the waves are good, I don't mind, you know. I'll just, okay, we'll use that later, you know, and that usually shows that the waves are great, and that's kind of what you want anyway. So
yeah, sometimes the waves have to do the talking, really, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a surfer which you have the best chemistry with? Could you pick 1 or 2 out that you're like, right, this guy, I really want to call his heat because we just get along, we have a good positive energy between us? Or is it all of them?
Yeah, you know what's funny is like the tour, I think my first event was 2007 on the men's tour. My first event was 2010. The tour's been pretty cool, man. There's like a lot of really good people and really different, you know, from who they are. Some are more outgoing. Some you just, you know, it doesn't go too far past like a 5-minute conversation. Sometimes that's a language barrier, but sometimes it's just they're quiet. But all in all, there's some really good people on tour, and I think over the years, you become good friends with certain personalities. You know, like for me, Mick Fanning was always really cool to me. You know, and it was really fun to kind of connect with him as a friend outside of the tour as well, and just like a fun person to hang out with. And he became a guy I would bug on the Gold Coast if I needed something, you know, just like you would with a buddy, you know. So I always enjoyed, you know, connecting with him and Kelly and Parco and all those guys today. Like for Joel and Mick, they're retired, but it's been really fun for me to text those guys and get their opinion on a heat that's happening now. And cool. I feel really lucky that, you know, it's gonna really elevate the broadcast if I can quote like a 3-time world champ on the fly, you know, be like, hey, Ethan's coming up next. Have you seen him lately? And they're like, I surfed with him last week. We were talking about this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, for my job, that's gold, you know, like, amazing. And to be able to get that in like an impulsive thought that I have. And because with the tour being so small, we travel together, we surf together. So I think the benefit of a surf broadcast we're not as like removed as some broadcasters in other sports where you might have to schedule like a few minutes to chat, you know, where we can run into each other all the time, and pretty
True.
soon in a small world you're making pretty good friends, you know.
And that's very beneficial, because then the kind of system then just keeps repeating itself, and it's prolonging the kind of good spirit of the WSL, the good broadcasting, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good story, actually. Is there a golden era which you really loved commenting on?
I think it's funny when we start reflecting a lot nowadays, you know, of like remembering past heats, but definitely personal moments of the job, you know. And what I mentioned before, when Jed Pearson put that team together in 2014, there was so much excitement about it because we had new ownership coming in. In 2013 and 2012, no one knew what this new broadcast was going to look like, where surfing was going to go. And I remember just getting the call that, you know, to be on the team just felt amazing. That moment was so exciting. And to then get paired with Martin Potter and to sit next to Potts for 6 years straight in the booth. We called every heat together, every final together. And those years were just really magic. I think it was really fun. Our team had such a excitement about traveling the world together, and a lot of people on tour would tease us because like the commentators are never apart. You guys work together all day, you guys surf together all day. You go to like a restaurant and they see a big table with all of us eating together. And I think those years were really fun. Just from 2014, 15, 16, you know, it was that was a real exciting time. And definitely when we all realized together, not just by ourselves, but together we were living the dream, because we got to travel the world with our best friends.
That's so good. That's so good. That's absolutely amazing. And do you still get the same kind of butterflies, maybe the same kind of preheat, not nerves, but preheat kind of thoughts before as it was 10 years ago or when you first started?
It's funny, man. Like what's been happening to me lately in the last 2 seasons is the night before opening day of any event, you know, but especially like Pipeline to kick off the year. I love that event so much.
Yes,
and
me too.
All of a sudden I can't sleep. Like, after all these years, I used to be such a good sleeper. And now that's what I've been really noticing lately, where I'm like, I want to have all these ideas in my head. And I'm just thinking of like more things and more things. Then I can't turn my mind off. And it's always the night before the first. Once we start, I'm okay. Like once we get going in the waiting period, and then I find my flow and I relax a little bit. But I'm kind of laughing at myself because I'm like, man, I didn't do that for all those years. Now I can't sleep. But the nerves were different in the past. Like I used to walk into a big set, like at the Australian Open in Manly Beach, and there'd be the head of Billabong and Hurley standing there, and I'd be sitting on this chair and my heart's just beating through my chest. And I was always like, all right, man, just take a deep breath, sit high in the saddle, like my posture. And I always used to have like my first 3 words memorized, so I didn't have to reach for them, and I could just take a big breath and go. I don't quite get nerves like that bad anymore. I know how to manage those and kind of use them to your advantage, because a little of adrenaline is great for the show. But it's more of me wanting to be so prepared, and the want to do the best job you ever could do every event, where all of a sudden I'm up all night just thinking about different things and weird stats, and just like I'm just trying to tell myself to go to bed, you know.
Oh, good. You're a true pro. Eh? It's fascinating. I agree. It's literally, you're my idol in surfing, because I really watch out for you.
Thanks, Mark.
I love it. So the fact
it means a lot to me.
Thank you, man. The fact that you experience these nerves, you're human, right?
Yeah, totally.
Joe's human, guys. What do you personally get a bigger kick out of? Free surfing yourself before a heat or calling the heat?
Gosh, that's a great question. It's funny because when I first started doing any type of commentating, even at the amateur level, I'll never forget my first event I ever called. It was the beach announcing with a microphone, no broadcast, just really simple, calling scores out to the NSSA Southwest Open Series. And there's this little stretch of coast called Brookhurst Street and Huntington Beach. It's just south of the Huntington Pier by about 500 yards. And we got there and the waves were perfect. It's as good as you'd want that beach to be. You know, it was peaky, overhead, spinning barrels, like you'd surf all day, you know. And it was the first time in my surfing life where I showed up at the beach at 6 and I wasn't surfing, you know. I was working. And I remember how weird that was in my head to go, wait, I'm not going surfing. And in my surfing life, it was actually a big moment because I was like, this is crazy. And then it happens a lot at events. And when you're working at an event, you want the waves to be as good as it gets as well, because then everyone's job lifts, everyone's day is better. The surfers are happy. The beach marshal's happy. You know, the guy working on the website is happy. You know, you love feeling that lift when you're scoring, just like being a surfer. So, for me, I think just being a surfer first, there's nothing better than getting good waves with your friends. You know, I think that's just always what you're going to be doing for your life. If there's no such thing as a tour, there's no magazines, if there's no media or jobs within it, you'd be doing it anyway. I'd be doing it anyway. So I think when it comes down to just getting good waves with friends, that's always my favorite. And then, but yeah, so blessed that I get to do my job around my passion. And when the elements of a live broadcaster working, the whole production trucks working together like a choir where everyone's in sync, and and the waves are good and you have a good result, that's hard to beat as well. So when it just comes down to getting good waves, though, I think that's always going to win.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have mini competitions with fellow commentators and presenters about who the best shredder is amongst you.
Oh yeah, I lose those all the time. Like I'm in a really good place where you know, if I'm with like a former world champ, hey, it's okay. I shouldn't expect to have any chance of beating them in the heat. But yeah, no, the team's really cool and they're actually really supportive and stuff. Rosie Hodge and I have a joke where she's seen every great moment of my surfing life. She just happens to be there. If I get a good wave, she's like, that's probably one of the best waves of your life. And I'm like, yeah, you were there for that too, you know? And,
amazing.
You know, for Rosie, she's a world-class surfer. So for me, if I get a compliment from anyone on the team, man, I'm beaming. I call my mom right away. And
oh, that's so nice. That's such a sweet thing to do. I should probably do the same, actually.
Yeah.
My mom worries, though. She's just worries.
Yes, that's what they do, right?
Yeah, that's their job. Eh? And you're a new dad.
Yes.
Kind of new dad, yeah. So has this, and it's the same with me. We have a similar age.
Yours is 7, yeah?
Yeah, he's 6, actually. Is yours
6?
And yours?
Oh, just turned 7.
Just turned 7, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Has this changed? Has being a dad changed your outlook on surfing bigger waves, or on your life in general, on your surf life in general?
Oh, totally. The biggest thing for me that I'm going through, and as you know, like once they get to 6 and 7, they have their little personalities and they can communicate, which is amazing. I love that. And the hard part is just simply saying goodbye, you know, when I got to go to work.
Yeah.
That is the hardest part for me. And to be honest, Mark, I think it's harder on me than it is for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She's never known anything different. I've been doing this job, you know, since before she was born. And but the hardest thing is saying I'm going away. So I'm like coming up with new ways to do it, and I'll start letting her know a week ahead of time, so it's not a surprise, you know. And so she knows what's going on. I have a calendar in her bedroom. I start marking down the days where I'm coming home, and
that's nice,
we're trying to, you know, she's so little, like you don't want to get her a phone that she's using like we do, but she has an iPad, and it had with internet. I'm the one person she can text, you know, and like say hi dad and send me a photo of her face. And that helps a lot because I remind her, I'm like, hey, you can FaceTime me anytime you want. And the, you know, age of the internet these days and all the technology we have, FaceTime helps a lot. But yeah, the hardest part is definitely when I have to go away for a while. Like, you know, coming up in like 10 days, I think I start a road trip that is so jammed all the way till the finals. And I think my biggest thing that I think about is like, how can I be a great dad when I'm on the road, you know? So
Yeah, I'm sure you're succeeding, Joe. I'm sure you're a massive inspiration. And has she traveled with you at all? Do you get the chance to go with her? Yeah.
yeah, we've had some great trips. I think that is always the great balance of this job is I might have to go away, but then the ones that the family comes on, it's like lifetime memories. And for Cozy, she's really good friends with Ronnie Blakey's daughter, Minnie.
Amazing.
They're really inseparable when they're together. And I'm like, wow, when I was, 6 and 7, I didn't have a best friend that's Australian, and
Yeah.
she'll play with, young Brazilian kids when they're in the competitors area and just different things like that, where I'm like, okay, she's traveled way more than I did. I didn't really get on the road till my 20s. And I think it's really cool that she's getting this global experience so young, and for places like Australia, she came with me through Europe. She was a little bit young then, but just the idea of packing up and getting on an airplane is pretty normal for her. So that's pretty awesome.
It is. It's making the world a lot closer, and hopefully we can all get along a lot more,
Yes.
I mean, here we are, we're connected LA to Malta, a tiny island in the middle of nowhere, it's really cool.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Joe, by the way. I can see your kind of your energy change when you're talking about your family. It's a beautiful thing to see, actually. Yeah, it's really nice.
Brother. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I know exactly what it's like. And yeah, and you can't push them. I don't want him to be pushed into things as well. So it has to always be his own flow when it comes to
right.
As we discussed a couple of weeks ago. Nice one, Joe. All right, let's get back a bit to the surf now. Is there a spot on tour which you absolutely really love, like your favorite thing? Right, this is happening. I can't wait for this exact spot.
Yeah, it goes to Fiji for sure, and I think the excitement, the excitement with Fiji being back on this year, and I think as you probably saw for next year's WSL finals, it's everything. It's the dream. It's like a cartoonish paradise. If you watch a cartoon and it's like sand, trees, bright blue water. It looks like that when you're like pulling up on a boat and jumping off if you're staying at like Tavarua or Namotu, and just the idea of like getting in a boat to go surf. And it's not just Cloudbreak. There's restaurants, there's Namotu lefts, there's other waves around the corner. When you're working a job too, like you're commentating, there's people, the surfers on tour that are practicing at Cloudbreak, and you kind of go, hang on, it's probably better for me to stay out of the way from the warm-ups. Let's go to a different spot. And when you're at a location where there's a ton of waves around, that's when you just can't believe that you get to do this, because you'll surf another spot. It's just you and the other commentators and maybe a couple judges, and you're just like scoring, and you just can't believe it. And it's like, maybe it's not as good as the contest site or the venue, but gosh, for me, it doesn't take much to get me stoked. So that's pretty fun.
That's so cool. That's amazing, actually. And you mentioned judges before as well just now. Have you ever considered judging? Is something you'd ever think of doing, or?
Man, I have so much respect for those guys and girls. They're amazing. But I've judged some events on the amateur level, regional level, and it was never something I wanted to do. I was always attracted to the broadcast. I think it is important for us to like kind of keep up with it, though, as commentators, to always make sure that you're kind of understanding the scale at all times. So I visit the judges quite a bit throughout an event. On my breaks, on those breaks that we were talking about, sometimes it's not so much writing notes down. Sometimes I'm just going to the judging tower, and I will talk to like Luli Pereira, the head judge, and just be like, oh, how did this go down? And I've known him forever, and he's got such patience and time for me to understand, which is great. And then so pardon me. So I think it's really fun for me to try to make sure that I'm sharp on my judging scale. But as far as like a career or wanting to judge events, I've never wanted to go that far with it. The broadcast has always been my happy place.
Yeah, and that seems like the happiest place to be honest. I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm a sports journalist, so for me, broadcasting journalism, for me, it's where I really get high on. I really like it so much.
Same. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Joe, have you ever thought of writing some kind of autobiography or something, maybe later on in life? Because you must have some incredible stories.
You know what's interesting, Mark, is somebody I don't know sent me a message saying that today.
There you go.
And so I've been thinking about that just this morning, really. I have thought about like a scrapbooking version of all the early travels on the road, and kind of first and foremost for my family and myself to remember all these travels, because there's a lot in there that sometimes I go, oh yeah, I remember that in 2010 in Batuba, where I met a local family and they cooked fish in their house for me, and I stayed up way too late and they dropped me off at the contest 4 hours later than they should have, like things like that, like that were I look back on and are priceless. So I think it'd be fun. I'd have to really get organized with it and dedicate some time. I think it would be a fun project, even just personally. And then if it turns into something that would be cool to share, I would go there. But I think my first goal would be like organize it for myself. And then if it's like, wow, maybe someone would like this, maybe I'd, push it out there,
Yeah, that's fair. I'd love it. I'd love to see it. And Joe, if it wasn't surfing, what would you be doing?
Yeah, I think probably trying to commentate on a baseball.
Oh, yes, nice.
I grew up playing baseball, and before there was big surf events to watch, I would just watch everything on Sports Center, on ESPN, and I even had a teacher in Hawaii when I was like in 5th grade. He had a summer school class where you could do your own broadcast, and I would just do like Dodgers highlights. Los Angeles Dodgers is like a baseball team, and I'd do like Laker updates for basketball. And gosh, there's a tape of it somewhere. You would laugh so hard probably seeing this, but I gotta find it. But that was sort of my first moment of, I want to do something. I kind of wanted to be on ESPN in the future. I wanted to go into major sports, but then when surfing takes over your life and then they became a broadcast, I forgot all about that. And
but I mean, you've carved it really for yourself on instead of on ESPN, you're on WSL.
Yeah, so I'm stuck. So yeah, if there's anything like of not doing surfing, I always think like, oh, maybe I would see what that other life would have been like if I stuck with baseball.
Yeah, you wouldn't be traveling these beautiful places, I'm sure.
Exactly. It'd be a little different,
In Japan and US a lot, probably. At least you get to travel the whole world, which is amazing.
Yes.
That's really, really cool.
I wouldn't trade it. So.
Yeah, no, forget it. Absolutely. Yeah. Are you mad? Of course. If you want to trade it, just just pick me.
Yeah.
And also, Joe, this is gonna sound weird, but your fashion sense, your clothes selection is always absolutely on point. I'm gonna put that out there. Well done.
Hey, thank you, Mark.
I'm always like, what's Joe gonna wear today? Really cool shirts. And I wanted to ask about Strider. Strider also seems like a really fantastic character to be around. What's he like?
He's just like you would think. He's just like that. If the cameras stop rolling, he doesn't stop doing exactly what you see, which is laughing a lot, not taking life too seriously, loves to surf. Has a really good sense of just understanding how important it is just to be happy all the time, so he's really a joy to be with. And if you met him right now on the street, he would love a conversation with you. He's easygoing, and you can hear his laugh about a mile away. So if you ever lose him, you're like, oh, there he is. He's cracking up about something.
So good. That's so good, because it seems like you guys, as broadcasters, as presenters, as commentators, you all have the license to just be yourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Refreshing. That's amazing, actually. That's rare.
Really cool.
Very rare. I think in other sports, you kind of get like a watered down version of the person, especially sports like football, where the tabloids get a bit crazy. But you guys, you guys are just playing and having fun, and it's so good. This is why I love the WSL, because people are just being themselves, being happy people. So it's really
Yeah,
good.
you know, and it's funny you say that, because I think they've been feeling that over the years, and at the start of the season they get everyone together to kind of have a meeting before pipe starts, and our boss Jed Pearson, who I mentioned before, he was just saying that he's like, be yourselves, you know, just always remember to just be who you are and have fun, you know. So it was kind of like the coolest pep talk ever. You're like, okay, you know, let's do this, you know.
Jeez. How amazing is that? That's so good.
Yeah.
And what advice do you have for anyone getting in surfing?
Oh, just like riding waves, you mean?
I just, you know, they've seen a dude or do that shredding and like, yeah, I want to surf. What's your advice for them?
Oh yeah, I just think the easiest thing to do is to get ahead of yourself and think you need to accomplish all these things or surf a certain way. And I think we're at a fun time to, no matter what your age is, just have fun. You know, I have a couple friends that are learning surfing late in life, and it's hard as an adult to accept being not good at something. You know, it's I think it's a really healthy challenge for us to always learn new things, you know, like even if it's out of the water. But I think for surfing, it can be very self-conscious of the whole story of being a kook or not having the right style or all this and that. And I think the most important thing is to really honestly forget about how you might be perceived on a wave, and really focus on how it makes you feel, you know. And I think that translates the best, and not overthink, you know, all the other things, you know, even in sport or in heats or how you're supposed to perform. It's like, if you learn how to surf just for the sake of being in the ocean and the feeling you get, and if it makes you happy, man, do it forever.
Amazing, eh? Solid advice. It's absolutely solid. And it's true what you're saying. Just be yourself, be happy, and enjoy it. Because, yeah, I've just written an article about surfing in your 30s. And, yeah, it does get a bit tough. You're right, you know. It is, and it's quite a judgmental sport for yourself, because you are thinking about the cook of the day, basically, nonstop.
Yeah, totally.
Which I love, by the way. I love all these accounts, which
Oh,
are,
it's so entertaining. Huh?
it's entertaining. It doesn't take life seriously. Life shouldn't be taken seriously. So that's this is really, really cool. Joe, I don't have many more questions left. We could probably chat all evening, but I know you're extremely busy. God knows what you're up to today, and I don't want to take too much of your time. But yeah, I really wanted to thank you for joining, for saying, you know, for being part of this conversation. And if you just have any more little advice for us as a community, how we're going to keep on growing here.
Well, Mark, you're doing a great job as a voice of your community. First, I just want to thank you for your aloha, your kindness. All your messages you send me mean a lot. And yeah, it just makes it all worthwhile when I hear someone is enjoying everything on the broadcast as much as I do, and that it comes across in such a positive way. So I thank you deeply for that. And also just for your community is lift each other up, look out for each other. I've been on the North Shore for about 8 years now, and that's where my family's from. So it's like really fun to see a tight community look out for each other. And so I think that's a really cool model for you guys to carry in and out of the water, lift each other up and support each other, and keep having fun riding waves. So hope I get to see you guys soon out there one day when the stars align. But until then, we'll be in touch for sure.
Thank you, Joe. I'm so stoked you replied to my first message many, many months ago. I couldn't believe it's. Oh, he replied, guys. Look, he replied. You know, it was like a fan moment, and everyone was super stoked that when I shared that we'll be chatting. So,
cool.
We're huge supporters, Joe. Keep up your good work. You and the whole team, by the way. We are very lucky, and we're very grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything from us down the stretch. So yeah, all the best to you guys.
Amazing, Joe. Have yourself a great day and enjoy some surf, hopefully very soon.
Awesome. You too.
Take care. Take care.